Hello and welcome to my September budget with me. I guess summer is over. It felt like it went by a bit too fast for me, but I am a little bit excited to get into the fall. Let me know if you are ready for summer to end and if you love the fall. If you're new here, I'm Kathy, a wife and a mother of an almost 2-year-old. She'll actually be 2 in October, so we're getting really close. My husband and I are in our 30s. I'm 34, my husband's 36. We both work full-time. We each make 6 figures now, but we are currently paying off what was over $500,000 of debt. Most of that is our mortgage, but we also had 3 other loans and then some other things. But now we're down to just 2 loans that we will go over in our budget. I've been sharing my budgeting for almost 2 years now, as we've been working on reducing our monthly expenses, trying to pay off some debt, save up quite a bit so that hopefully we can become a 1-income household. And I think I'm probably going to talk about how we're going to be able to make that possible sometime soon. For now, we are working on getting our expenses down, paying off some of our debts so that we can do that, and also continuing to save and invest so that we don't need my retirement contributions anymore either. So if that's something you're interested in, I would love to have you follow along. Now let's jump into my September budget. So first of all, we do a zero-based budget, which means at the end of the month, the amount that we have budgeted is 0, and the amount that we have left to spend is also 0. And we do this so that all of our money is accounted for. We don't have anything straggling, so everything has a purpose. And to accomplish this, we use a lot of sinking funds. You'll see them towards the end. And if you like this budget spreadsheet and you want to try it out for yourself, I always have it linked in my Buy Me a Coffee shop down below. So let's jump into our income. I budget off of my gross income because I see my paychecks and I want to keep track of all of the deductions that come out, including taxes, retirement contributions, all of that, my retirement account loan too. So I like getting all of the data by putting in my gross income here. For my husband though, we just look at his net income that hits our joint account, which is currently 95% of his take-home pay. He keeps the other 5% in his own accounts where he spends however he wants to, which is the way that works best for us. I technically keep 5% also in my own personal spending account, but I like to track all of my spending on this budget spreadsheet because that's just what works best for me. I'm also not a really big spender, and I do like to keep track of all of the spending that happens, whereas my husband, he could care less about tracking it. As long as he has enough money in his account, he's fine. So let's start with my income. I am salaried, so it's pretty easy to budget what my gross income will be. Sometimes things fluctuate with taxes and stuff, and so I'm not always sure what my net income is going to be, but my gross income is always about $10,537.84, and that will be for 2 paychecks. For my husband, he's expecting probably $5,460.68, and that's also 2 paychecks. We get paid every other week, so some months we have 3 paychecks. I think I'm having a 3 paycheck month coming up next month in October, and I think my husband just had one. So for now, we're just getting 2 paychecks. This will be a standard income month for us. Now for interest, I typically budget low here. We have quite a bit in our high yield savings account, so we usually make quite a bit in interest. But for now, I'm going to keep it conservative at $17.03, and it is that amount so that in the end, everything works out to 0. This is how I keep my budget 0, by putting in strange amounts for interest that are kind of realistic, but also very conservative. The rest of our income expectations I'm going to leave at 0. We sometimes redeem credit card rewards. They happen automatically, although I could control when we get those, but I like to have them happen automatically. And then we're not expecting any refunds or any other income. So let's move on to savings. I like to have this one next because we do really like to focus on our savings goals and paying ourselves first. So we are always contributing to our retirement accounts and budgeting out our other savings goals. You won't see my husband's contributions on here. I go over how much he contributes and how much his workplace matches in my Transfer Tuesdays after he gets paid, but I don't keep track of that on our budget spreadsheet. So my contributions to retirement are $421.51. This is 4% of my pay, and I'm contributing after tax currently. Next, we have my daughter's 529. We have a goal of contributing $5,000 for the year. We are more than halfway there because we are more than halfway through the year. So we budget $415 a month to get us all the way there by the end of the month. Next, we have Acorns. This is my after-tax brokerage account. I set this up in like 2020. And I was kind of aggressively contributing to it, but lately I've very much pulled back. I contribute just $5 a month, and then I have the roundups turned on for a one-times roundup. And so it's typically a little over $15 a month that we contribute to Acorns. These contributions are actually one of the expenses that come out of my personal spending. So you can kind of get a glimpse of the type of person I am, that my personal spending involves investing in my after-tax brokerage account. The rest of our goals have already been met. We've contributed to all of these at least as much as we thought we could. In the future, we may have more to contribute to the 2025 HSA because my husband's workplace stopped contributing as much as they were contributing. And so there might be some more room for us to contribute that difference. So it's a little bit disappointing that they aren't contributing as much as they were, but at least we still have the high deductible plan and we can still contribute that. So now moving on to the expenses category. These are our fixed expenses, the things that we know up front and that don't really fluctuate that much. But saying that, there is one item in this category that we are not sure about the exact amount this month, and I will get into that. The first thing is taxes. Because I budget off my gross income, you get to see how much I pay in taxes, and this is like Medicare and all of the other things that come out of your paycheck. I budget $3,003.28, and this is typically an overestimate. I like to put in a budget like a percentage of what I pay towards taxes, and it's about 28.5% is what I pay in taxes. Next, I have life insurance. This also comes out of my paycheck, so I'll be paying it twice this month for $6.94. This gets me 3 times my salary in life insurance coverage, and that's plenty for me for now. Car insurance, we're expecting this to be $195.92. We cover 3 cars with this. The one is one that we never drive at all, but we still have coverage on it. And then my husband's 2023 Ford Maverick and my 2018 Prius Prime. Next, we have utilities. We're expecting to pay $247.50 for our electric this month. We are on a budget billing plan, and so technically this should be $260 in utilities, but over the summer we get a little bit of a credit for allowing them to cycle our air conditioning whenever it's too hot out, or there was an emergency event a couple of weeks ago where some power plant went offline, so they cycled our AC in order to reduce the load. So we allowed them to do that, and they give us $12.50 a month over the summer. Next, we have internet. That's $34.99, and that's just for basic internet, no other services, no TV, anything like that. And now daycare. This is the expense that we're not really sure what it's going to be. They say that they raise their rates every September and also add a school fee. So I'm hoping that they're not raising it more than 3%. They have two places in their documentation. One where it says they will only raise it up to 3%, and then another place where they could say that they can raise it up to 7%. I'm hoping that they don't raise it more than 3%. We were paying $1,463 a month over the summer for her to be at daycare. So I'm hoping that it's not more than $1,557 for September. And then it may drop down further because once our daughter hits 2 years old, daycare becomes a lot cheaper. So we'll see moving forward. They will give us our invoice. Typically it's like September 1st-ish. Sometimes it's a little bit later. And then we have until the 12th to pay for it. Next is our only subscription, and that's my Acorns account. I pay $1 for that. And then dental, this is our dental insurance premiums. I cover those. My husband covers our health insurance premiums, so I don't keep track of that here because he has access to the high deductible plan. I don't. Maybe next year we'll switch to my plan. I'm not quite sure, but that would take away our access to the HSA. But with having a young kid, it can be very expensive, doctor's visits and stuff. So we really don't want a high deductible plan. But previously my husband's workplace was completely covering premiums, and so that was a big incentive for us to go with a high deductible plan because we literally paid nothing. But his workplace changed coverage, and now he pays like $500 a month for a high deductible plan. So it's just crazy because I think the high deductible also went up by a couple $1,000s. And so if we needed medical services, it would be way more expensive now because we're also paying monthly, and then to have that higher deductible. So we're hoping we can get through this year without any major medical expenses so that we don't have to pay quite so much. Although we do have the HSA, which I'm hoping to keep invested for the long term, but if anything catastrophic happened, we could use that to fall back on. So our dental coverage is $21.30. It's actually cheaper to get it through my workplace, and we have better coverage than my husband has, so that's also why we're doing dental through mine. So now let's get into our debts. We pay our mortgage. This should be the last time that we pay into escrow the full amount for our mortgage. It's going to be $2,630. If you've seen any of my recent videos, I've been talking a lot about our mortgage and our escrow, our property taxes, all of that. I asked them to remove escrow after they said that they paid our property taxes back in early July, and they took about a week to confirm that they removed escrow, which was about a week after our property taxes was due. And then they refunded us our escrow balance that included everything that they said that they paid towards our property taxes, because they issued a stop payment on our property taxes. So they didn't actually pay our property taxes. They didn't tell us that they didn't pay our property taxes. So I've been having a bit of a fight with them over that because they told us they did. They told us they paid our property taxes, and then they didn't say that they didn't after it was too late to pay them. So I'm kind of waiting on them to give us some clarity on what we can do about that. But for 2 additional months, we have to pay into escrow as if we were paying for our property taxes. So That's been ridiculous. They did issue us a check for our escrow balance like last week, and so I deposited that, and we'll have to use that to pay our property taxes. But moving forward, we will not be paying into escrow anymore for our property taxes. They will still be covering our property insurance, although I don't know, maybe I'll just get that removed as well. But our mortgage will be going down in October. It takes them 2 months to reset our mortgage payment, which is also a little bit ridiculous, but it is what it is. This month we're paying $2,630 again for our mortgage plus escrow, and moving forward we will not be paying that much. So stick around if you want to know our new mortgage payment when I do my October budget with me. Truck, we paid this off, so budgeting $0. And then my retirement account loan, this comes out with every single one of my paychecks. For now, I'm just planning on making those minimum payments, which will be $4,072.44. I do want to pay this off early. Currently, we're just saving to pay it off early, but we haven't made any additional payments yet. I'm thinking I might want to start making additional payments, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet because it feels safer to have all of that money in savings, but I do know that I'm not happy with having this loan and would like to get it paid off. We currently owe just over $32,000 on it. It's like $32,500 something, and we don't quite have the total amount saved up yet. We should soon, so we might start making those payments before we get the total amount saved up. But I don't know. Let me know what you think if I should start paying this off early now that we have quite a bit of a buffer in our savings. And then our final debt are my husband's student loans. We pay $382 a month for those. We've had some issues with those as well because we switched the account that they were being paid out of, and Mohela did not like that at all. So that's all of our debts. Now moving on to our sinking funds. I've actually decreased this a little bit, what we contribute to our sinking funds. We don't spend consistently. With groceries, with gas, well, I guess we're a little bit more consistent with gas, but with anything, we don't spend consistently. Some months we will be stocking up on something, and then we'll go several months with barely spending any money at all. So sinking funds are a lifesaver for us because we get to fund even amounts every single month and then just spend whenever we need to. And as long as they don't get too negative, we're happy. I mean, some of them sometimes get negative when we aren't funding them as well as we should be, but overall they never get negative, which is also kind of the beauty of the way that we do sinking funds, where as long as there's money in some sinking fund, we have money to spend. But I do like to keep all of them positive. But then, like, if there's ever an emergency in any of these categories, we always have the money there to spend it, or if we ever want to spend, this kind of gives us permission to spend in a category because it's always been fully funded. So I decreased these a little bit, and part of the reason is because they're pretty well funded, some of them more than others, so I am increasing the amounts that are in the underfunded ones and decreasing the amounts in the ones that are overfunded. But overall, I'm funding a little bit less, and that's mostly because we are trying to live off of just my husband's income. And currently, if he were to cover the majority of our expenses, the fixed expenses that wouldn't go away when I left my job, he would only have about $2,000, less than $2,000 in order to cover all of the other expenses. So I think I'm going to go over in another video like exactly what my paycheck needs to cover and then what his paycheck needs to cover so that we can see exactly how we'll be living off of one income. So I'm not going to go over that here. But for now, we are going to contribute $700 to our home sinking fund. This is kind of our biggest sinking fund because it covers any kind of home maintenance, and that can be pretty expensive. So I guess now our goal for the year has increased because we have had to pay our property taxes fully out of the sinking fund. Moving forward, I think when our mortgage goes down because of escrow finally being removed, then I will start saving up for property taxes next year in a separate sinking fund, but I just haven't gotten around to doing that yet. Groceries, we actually have a pretty good sinking fund built up now. This summer has actually been really nice for our grocery spending. We spent quite a bit in May to get a CSA, and then we really have been very low on our grocery spending all month long because we've gotten all those vegetables. We pick up, it's probably like 30 pounds of vegetables every single week. So I think every single month since May, we've kept our grocery spending under $200. So our average grocery spending up until this point has been about $420 a month. So we've been quite under average because of all that produce, but it may pick back up once that ends, I think, at the end of September. So for groceries, I budget $550 for our sinking fund. I think we will have to place a bulk order in September for a few things, so we might be spending a bit more in September than we have been all summer because we haven't placed a single bulk order over the summer. For car and gas, I'm budgeting $350, so as I said, our gas is a little bit less variable now, but we're also saving for car maintenance in this sinking fund. Like my husband had to get tires this year. I think I got tires last year, so we should be good on tires for a couple of years, but I still need oil changes in my car and tire rotations and stuff. Although I like to do my own tire rotations, I just haven't really had the time. For health, I'm really padding the sinking fund, bringing it back to positive. It had been negative for quite a while, so I'm contributing $160 to it. We grossly underestimated how much we would be spending on health this year. And really, all of our health spending happened last December, so I should have been much more prepared with this fund, but I wasn't. So, I mean, you live and you learn. As you're doing your budget, you can always adjust. For pets, I'm actually not budgeting anything for them this month. They have a pretty hefty sinking fund. It's almost $700, and I don't spend very much on them. And even a vet visit wouldn't cost that much. So, not funding pets anymore this month, and I don't know about the rest of the year. We'll reevaluate in October. For baby, that one's negative, and so contributing $80 should bring it back up to the positive. It should be $10, but I think we did some more spending in August that I haven't accounted for yet, so that's probably negative again. But that's fine. We barely spend anything on our daughter. She gets new clothes kind of seasonally, and that's typically about it. There are some things that her daycare insists that we get, which is a little bit frustrating because these are things that we wouldn't typically buy or use for her, but we don't have any option because we are sending her to the daycare that we're sending her to. We had a little bit more flexibility when we were sending her to a home daycare because the home daycare lady was a little bit more lenient, but we weren't happy there. So we have her at kind of a more structured daycare now, and so they have more structured rules. For phone, this is for the annual renewal of my husband's and my Mint Mobile plans. We just renewed ours last month, and my husband opted for a cheaper plan. So we're not really sure if that's going to keep working for him. He does like to use a lot of data. So we're budgeting $55. This is in case he wants to go back up to that more expensive plan, or if we need phones in the future, but we have an entire year to play around with that budget because we don't need to pay for phones again for another year. Next is gifts and donations. This is one of the ones that we are no longer funding. We have $445 in there, and we don't have gifts to buy until basically maybe November. We have some birthdays and then Christmas time, But we only buy for the kids in the family, and that's probably around $20 to $50 a piece. So we should be fine with gifts. If for some reason we need to add more to this fund, we can do that later. For clothing and personal, I'm not budgeting for that anymore. I really don't spend anything, so we'll see if I do ever need to top that up. If there were things that I needed to buy, I would probably contribute more to it, but this is just like if I ever have an impulse to buy something, which rarely happens because I never really go anywhere, so I don't get tempted by shopping. Travel and entertainment, not funding this anymore. We have $458 in there, and that would be more than enough for any kind of entertainment that we may want to do. We don't have any travel plans. We didn't go anywhere this summer, so we don't need a big sinking fund for travel. Maybe in the future we'll be traveling a little bit more or doing more entertainment, but for now, with our debt payoff goals and our low spending, we're not focusing on any kind of travel, and that's working fine for us. Restaurants as well, we are not contributing to that. We have gone to restaurants a little bit more frequently than we had in the past year. Our daughter is finally at an age where she can sit down and eat food at a restaurant, and she has a lot of fun when we take her places. So we have been taking her to restaurants a little bit more frequently than like my husband and I would typically go, which is still only, I think, like twice this year. So 2 times, and we're in the 9th month. So we really don't go eat out at all. We do most of our cooking at home. We like to meal prep, batch cook. So we typically cook enough food for an entire week and then do it again every single week. So we don't really have any need to go out to a restaurant because there's always cooked food in the house. And so it's just faster to heat up what we've already made instead of going out and getting something. And time is super important when you have a toddler who has a very particular nap schedule. It's really hard to get out and do things. Let's see, the rest of our sinking funds, miscellaneous, I'm not planning anything for that. The DCFSA comes out of my paycheck, so that's $416.66. So over the course of the year, $5,000 will come out, and I use that to reimburse daycare expenses. I spent most of that, so we probably won't have enough to reimburse a daycare expense until maybe November, but we'll see. Our emergency fund is basically already fully funded, so I'm not contributing to that anymore. Our new roof, that was paid for in February, March, so we're not contributing to that at all. And other, this is where all of our savings are going to pay off my retirement account loan, maybe a home renovation, probably not at this point. So for now we have $4,300, so that's what we will put into our other fund for additional savings. So hopefully we should have that much. I guess it depends on the one unknown this month, which is our daycare expenses. But typically we bring in a little bit more income than I budget here because I like to be conservative. So typically our interest will be a lot higher, and we may get a credit card reward or something. So still, that's probably only about $50 to $100 extra if that happens. But we typically don't go over in any of our other fixed expense spending. The only time our spending fluctuates really is when it comes out of our sinking funds. And if we look over here at the balances of our sinking funds, if we exclude the DCFSA and the emergency fund, we are starting out with almost $7,500 that we can spend in variable spending throughout the month. And typically our average spending over a month is about $1,600. So unless something crazy comes up, we should be able to cover any expense that gets thrown at us. So that's everything for my September budget. Let me know in the comments if you've done your September budget, and let me know what you're looking forward to the most. If you're interested in following along with our family's journey as we work towards paying down debt and saving and investing, then I would love to have you follow along. Thank you for being here.